those were the parts of the movie that I always liked, was the story with M, story of Silva, story of James Bond.
This continues that theme of M being mother and brings in a brother.
Right.
This is dueling brothers, Cain and Abel style, all kind of fighting over the affections of their mother.
So it's almost like she starts with that story and then she ended with that story.
But this is obviously the more complete version of that story because Alec Trevelyan felt that all of England owed him restitution as opposed to M specifically.
England is about to learn the cost of betrayal. Inflation adjusted for 1945.
There was always a sense that Alec's betrayal of MI6 had been in the works before he was even recruited.
How did the MI6 screening miss that your parents were Leon's Cossacks?
Once again, your faith is misplaced. They knew.
As opposed to Silva, whose turn occurred at the peak of his career.
Station H. Am I right? Hong Kong?
86 to 97. Back then, I was her favorite.
The major difference between the two is that nobody has any sympathy for the Lienz Cossacks because they themselves were two-faced.
Group that worked for the Nazis against the Russians. Second World War.
Ruthless people. They got what they deserve.
But one can easily have sympathy for Silva as his breach of trust was significantly more devious, coming from the one person he simply never expected, his figurative mother.
Look how far you're work.
This is where Nans is correct that Skyfall is the M movie. It takes the twine element of a sin from M's shady past
against every instinct in my heart, every emotion as a mother, I told him not to pay the ransom.
And combines it with Alec Trevelyan.
Mommy was very bad.
M's maternal dynamic had been firmly established over the course of Craig's last two films.
Your mother?
She likes to think so.
You've got a bloody cheek. You're supposed to display some kind of judgment. I think you're so blinded by inconsolable rage that you don't care who you hurt.
Mom.
But then we have this wild card of Silva thrown in, a previously favored 00, another orphan to which we can assume she also provided guidance and wisdom for.
I assume you have no regrets.
I don't. What about you?
Of course not. That would be unprofessional.
No remorse.
Regret is unprofessional.
Regret is unprofessional. They kept me for 5 months in a room with no air.
Only this son she betrayed, sacrificing him not for the greater good per se, but for her own benefit.
I got 6 agents in return and a peaceful transition.
M has brought numerous figurative sons into this world, and she is willing to sacrifice each and every one of them for the greater good.
Leave him! Take the bloody shot!
It was you who betrayed me.
However, her sacrifice of Silva was careless and selfish, like a mother aborting her baby because she'd rather go out to the clubs than stay home at night. M sacrificed Bond as well, only not for herself, but for the greater good, like a mother sending her son off to defend the city walls.
It was the possibility of losing you or the certainty of losing all those other agents. I made the only decision I could, and you know it.
I think you lost your nerve.
What do you expect, a bloody apology? You know the rules of the game. You've been playing it long enough.
Both sons given up, but for different reasons. This is where McCurdy is 100% correct that Silva's bad guy motivation is undoubtedly the best in the series, as he's not motivated by money or power or psychosis, but by bitterness. A bitterness that festered and grew until Silva flipped from good to evil, from exactly what Bond is now to what Bond could become if such a betrayal were to occur, reflecting one of the oldest stories about sacrifice, envy, and revenge, the story of Cain and Abel. The basic story is that both brothers work to make sacrifices to God, but only Abel's are accepted because his are pure and selfless, whereas Cain chooses to hold something back for himself. Cain envies Abel's success while knowing in his heart that his shortcomings are his own fault. Cain is what's known as a little bitch, choosing to blame God instead of taking responsibility for his own choices, killing Abel to spite the Almighty. Cain does exactly what weak people do, adopting a victim mentality in order to avoid facing his own shortcomings, and this bitterness turns to hatred and ultimately revenge. Silva and Bond embody Cain and Abel brilliantly, with both brothers making sacrifices to their higher power, M, and yet Abel Bond is the favored brother brother because his sacrifices are pure in the sense that they are complete. They are selfless. Just like Cain, Silva makes the same sacrifices as his brother in appearance, but his are not as favored as Bond's because he holds something back for himself.
He was a brilliant agent. But he started operating beyond his brief, hacking the Chinese. The handover was coming up and they were onto him, so I gave him up.
After Silva's heavenly mother rejects him, just like Cain, he seeks to destroy that which she values most. MI6 and all of its agents, including her new favorite.
You're sentimental about it.
The man that can always be counted on to sacrifice for the big picture. And this is why Silva's attempt to flip Bond is so weak, because Bond knows that M's so-called betrayal was nothing more than her doing her duty.
007. You are ready for this?
Yes, Mom.
What is this if not betrayal?
Hardly the big picture, wouldn't you say?
But in point of fact, it is very possible that had Bond not learned the lessons of Casino Royale and Quantum of Solace,
I want you to take your ego out of the equation and to judge the situation dispassionately. I have to know I can trust you and that you know who to trust. You don't trust anyone, do you, James?
No.
Then you've learnt your lesson. I need to know that I can trust you. You said you weren't motivated by revenge.
I'm motivated by my duty.
Is he still alive?
He is.
I'm surprised.
that M would have eventually given him up just as she did Silva.
These bastards want your head. And I'm seriously considering feeding you to them. There's a capture or kill order out on you. You're removed from duty and suspended pending further investigation.
When it comes down to it, Bond is willing to give everything he has for M, not for M's sake, but because of what she represents.
The big picture.
You can throw Phoenix Rising metaphors my way all day and I'll still say that it's heavy-handed, forced, and ultimately irrelevant to Bond. Especially because this movie has a much simpler, much more appropriate symbol, the British Bulldog. This little trinket is the film's symbolic token of the big picture,
The whole office goes up in smoke and that bloody thing survives.
as it is the one thing that survived Silva's attack on MI6, signifying that
England. The Empire. MI6.
is more than just a place or a building or a single person, but an idea. It's an ideal worth fighting and dying for.
Maybe it was her way of telling you to take a desk job.
Just the opposite.
A task she now fully entrusts Bond to continue. But in the end, despite the extreme effort to protect the woman who has guided and nurtured him as a mother from orphan recruit to full-fledged 00 status,
How old were you when they died?
You know the answer to that. You know the whole story.
Orphans always make the best recruits.
her sins find her out.
Of course. It had to be here.
And this is where I can grasp Silva's hesitation to kill M, because deep down he understands all of this, just as much as she does.
I f***ed this up, didn't I? I did get one thing right.
These words are the closest thing to I love you that M, the closest thing to a mother that Bond has, could ever say to him. So despite all of the nitpicking and the complaints about logical shortcomings, this final moment between Bond and his mom is one of the most beautiful in the series, and is one of those rare moments where James Bond should cry. It's the perfect bookend to a relationship that began with,
How the hell could Bond be so stupid? I give him 00 status and he celebrates by shooting up an embassy. Is the man deranged? I knew it was too early to promote you.
Well, I understand 00s have a very short life expectancy, so your mistake will be short-lived.
I did get one thing right.
This works very effectively as the emotional payoff I talked about previously, even if it relies on a logical framework spanning 3 complete films. Bond returning home does nothing for me, but the passing of M is excellent. It's also in this scene that Silva confirms the threat he made back in his glass cell.
Life clung to me like a disease. And then I understood why I had survived. I needed to look in your eyes one last time.
That he's more or less been on a suicidal quest for vengeance, which does make him more Joker-esque, as he's a character that can seemingly strike at any time and has absolutely no regard for his own life. But as far as this movie's concerned, Silva may be even more dangerous than the Joker because he is in fact longing for death. While the Joker is a purely chaotic force hell-bent on dismantling Batman's efforts to reestablish order in Gotham, he does it for fun in a fiendishly delicious, happy-go-lucky kind of way. And he doesn't want to die because he enjoys it too much.
I like this job. I like it. You won't kill me out of some misplaced sense of self-righteousness. And I won't kill you because you're just too much fun. You complete me.
The Bond-verse equivalent of this chaos and order relationship is that of Bond and Spectre, namely Blofeld, as they each represent timeless forces in our reality that never go away. This is why, for the most part, nobody in these stories ever really dies. Blofeld and the Joker always get away so they can come back to fight another day, metaphorically reflecting the truth I'm always trying to shove down the throats of the progressive idealists that we can never be rid of bad things. We only stave them off temporarily.
I do so enjoy our little visits, Mr. Bond.
And this is where the comparison to the Joker breaks down and reveals Silva to be the more human character, as he is a reflection of very true-to-life aspects of human nature. He's by far the most fully realized three-dimensional baddie of Bond's rogues gallery. His mannerisms reflect his Bond-esque arrogance and abilities, his backstory is organically conveyed and coherently informs his bitter demons and motivations, and this all culminates in a worldview that informs his actions that we as an audience fully understand as we fully understand the man himself, as opposed to the Joker, who is less of a man and more of a
dog chasing cars. I wouldn't know what to do with one if I caught it. You know, I just do things.
Now, I'm not saying that Silva is a better character than the Joker per se, but the Joker is more of a metaphor for chaos than a fully dimensionalized villain. He's more of a force of nature than a human being. And yet everyone is always comparing Silva to the Joker when it's actually much more appropriate to compare him to the other bad guy of the Dark Knight, Two-Face. Beyond the surface level optics of two guys with really up faces, Silva is to James Bond precisely what Two-Face is to Harvey Dent, warning about the darkness that lives inside all of us and how the path of the righteous man can falter onto the path of darkness with just
a little push.
And just like Silva, Harvey Dent's Two-Face wants to die.
You think I want to escape from this? There is no escape from this.
But only after bringing down those responsible for his turn of bad luck. Completely apathetic towards innocent life he takes with him.
Please don't punish the boy. Please punish me.
I'm about to.
Likewise, Silva seeks to destroy everything M has built and then bring her down with him. Without a doubt, this is why the writers have Silva commit a mass shooting, as it's today's deranged mass shooters that embody the spirit of Cain, taking as many innocent people with them out of revenge against God, existence, society, whatever, instead of just committing suicide instead. So his outrageously
Cavalier attitude towards life
is motivated. I still see sloppily contrived screenwriting to back that up at parts, but nothing that threatens the ruination of his character. Bottom line is that Silva's why is top tier.
The key to a great story is not who, or what, or when, but why.
It's made clear that he's been looking forward to his death, but hasn't been able to do so long as M still lives. Again, like Cain killing Abel to spite God instead of just saving everyone the trouble and killing himself.
Free both of us. Free both of us. With the same bullet. Do it. Do it.